Hello, I'm Carolyn Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. You will find Confessions is a short-form chat about search engine optimization from a technical and non-technical point of view. I share my personal and professional observations based on over 17 years as a frontline SEO, SEO tester, and now forensic SEO. My goal is to provide the kinds of thoughts and ideas which I might have appreciated in my earlier SEO days, so I could maybe be better able to reach for what kind of SEO I want it to grow up and be versus an agency path. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 39 of Confessions of an SEO. Not gonna lie, last week, while it was crazy hectic, I was leading a completely offline life, and I liked it. Last week, I shared how my approach to creating a living providing SEO as a service has evolved into a little more sophisticated hybrid combo, shall we say, of affiliate and revenue sharing. Plus, part of that is building a local business online from the ground up. Google or AI, I really don't care. It's a great hybrid approach for me, and there's a part of it that I am somewhat content that is going to be all mine, and it's part of another company which is already successful and thriving. It's a win-win all around. You could say, I'm doing it my way, client SEO 2.0. Anyway, you can always find the most recent episode of Confessions on confessionsofanseo.com. Subscribe on whichever platform you get your podcast if you haven't already. Your simple act is a great way to both support this podcast and help others find it. This week's topic, I'm going to talk about what happened over the last couple of weeks when in mid-September this year, Google quietly disabled the number equals 100 parameter, which is used by many of us when we want to see what are the 100 search results on a single page. You know, we put a query in and we get back a page that's filled with 100 URLs. Well, and when Google did this, the entire SEO community lost its collective mind. I'm going to share what I think it was really about, because most of what you can find online is really lots of different ways that basically we can describe how horrible a boyfriend Google is and how much he deserves to have his tired slash, but oh, do I love him. This really was a big deal in various SEO strategies, which revolve around finding accidental related keywords and entities by looking through Search Console data. You filter by a page and you sort all the queries Google has assigned to that page, and discover which query or entity that had a lot of impressions, but not specifically that phrase on the page. You know, that's how you would identify them, because they were getting a lot of impressions, but you may not have had that on your page. So that's how, let's say, for example, you could find something that had a lot of impressions, and you would now add this to your page about, let's say, green rubber mulch and leapfrog over Home Depot and Lowe's for your client. Yep, that happened. In addition, from a forensic routine that I enjoy, just confirming the data lets you know if Google understands the content on your page and on your site as a collection of pages. So it didn't matter if a URL was on page 9 of search results. By the way, I never like using Search Console position data like a rank tracker. It was just really content confirmation process for me and others. So if you are following the food fight as it was happening, basically I saw this start on September 10th. That was a day, I guess we'll look back and say, third-party rank trackers died. Or maybe they just took a header, a face plant in the dirt. Officially, at first, Google said they were testing the removal of this parameter, but by September 14th, it was pretty much toast. SEMrush's SERP volatility tool was frozen at 9.4, which, if you know about their scale from 1 to 10, 9.4 is a nosebleed section. Now, it didn't come back online until September 17th. So obviously, SEMrush made the decision that they are going to invest in that technology. They're going to keep providing that tool to us. Now, there's a great write-up on ppc.land, which, by the way, look up who owns that site. To make comments, you can pay $10 a year to be a paid member of that site. And I say, nice monetization. I'll put the link in the description. Anyway, to the non-SEO person, why this was such a huge blow to the industry was previously the tools, the SEO tools that we use, so, they were connected into the API, they could pull back 100 results with one API request. Now, you don't even have to know what an API is or does when I tell you what this change meant. Now, to get that same collection of 100 results, instead of one single request, now you have to make 10 separate requests. One request per 10 results. So 1 through 10 is one request, 11 through 20 is another, 21 through 30, and so on. So they're all now separate and billable requests on the API. SEO tools have to pay to have access to these APIs from Google, and basically the cost to provide these services by these tools, if you look at it mathematically, it went up 900%. If you used to pay a penny, now you have to pay a dime for the same thing that used to cost a penny. Now, I remember when bubblegum went from a penny to 2 pennies, and I thought the world was going to explode. Basically, it felt like everyone in the SEO world had been dumped by the same two-timing jerk. But this is business, right? And while we feel the emotions, we can't really all just call Google a jerk. But everyone wants to know, why did they do it, right? And here's where I'm probably going to go off script, because there's only one reason that makes congruent sense. I'll tell you what it is, but I think first, let's go through the SEO Greek chorus refrains. This happened, and it's all good, because by removing that, it'll help reduce scraping from AI competitors. In other words, make them pay. Or Google is just defending their infrastructure from being overused. Well, okay, let's make them have to do it 10 times. This will address inflated data in Search Console. This was by far the weakest explanation. The idea here is that when a query was made, which scraped those 100 results, each one of those individual results received an impression and a position. Even if your page was in position number 99, you got one. Now, if you're looking at your Search Console data and you're seeing a huge drop-off in your impressions since around the 7th of September and an uptick in positional data, like where you were showing up, what position, that's kind of what this looks like. And lastly, now we can align with modern search experiences. Translated as, basically, no one goes past page 1, so none of this is important. Move along. So none of these statements made sense, real sense. And as I mulled it over, what suddenly, why would this suddenly be a thing? Why did this have to be done so quickly? It had the feeling of urgency to it. In fact, it had the feeling of desperately urgent feeling to it. And then it hit me. Now, I talk about this in an earlier episode, Season 5, Episode 36. Google gets to keep custody of Chrome, but it was at the price of having to share their index with competitors. This data sharing portion is part of that legal remedy that the judge dropped on Google's head in the early days of September. So pull out your calendar and check out that timeline. This kind of lines up. Now, the judge mandated that Google provide quality competitors. Not sure how that's going to be figured out, but anyway, those quality competitors will have access to a portion of Google's search index and user interaction data under the data sharing remedy. Now, this was done to lessen Google's monopoly in online search by providing competitors with resources that they needed to enhance their offering and, as a result, more successfully compete with Google. By making it harder to obtain 100 results, Google can effectively comply with the letter of the ruling, if not the spirit. Now, see, doesn't that make much more sense? Doesn't this explanation provide a little more kind of truthiness to it? It does make sense. Dollars and cents. Being an SEO tool provider myself, I'm referring to Indexilla, one of the cornerstones of this indexing technology is that at no point does it intersect into any dependencies of a Google API. There's nothing I have to address in my tool. But being an SEO tool provider, I really feel for not just these enterprise tools who do have a wider user base from enterprise clients through to independent SEOs, but the real folks who lose here are those who may have had innovative tools that because of their size, they cannot survive if they absorb these increases and yet have to take the heat from their even smaller customer base. Plus, now, it's kind of like, I'm just going to use this phrase, we're effectively blind, like to the easy. We can't just push a button and find where we are, where our content is ranking, unless we're using tools, which we will be required, more than likely, to pay more for the privilege to accommodate business profit margins. This at least emotionally feels like ultimately we're the only ones choosing between paying our rank tracker bills without racing weights to our clients and absorbing it. I like to think of this, and maybe this is a little too harsh, but Google got caught being greedy, and now they have to share. So we ultimately get to pay the price for their transgressions, and we need to say thank you. So, yeah, now that I think about it, Google's kind of is a jerk. Well, that's it for me this week. Thank you for being a listener. If you have questions about today's topic, you can reach out and text your questions to me at 512-222-3132. Indexilla is my indexer tool designed to get your pages discovered, and you can find it at indexilla.io. You can also become a member of my indexation group, Crawl or No Crawl, for only $18 a month and receive status reports to answer the question, is it me or is indexing off today? And starting in October, as a special member perk, you can submit your indexation question or issue directly through the system, and I'll take a look at it. You can search for Crawl or No Crawl and find it there. Thanks for listening, and until next week, I'll see you in the SERPs.